All right. Got your little tequila over here. There you go. Got my little tequila over here. Here we go. This is Herradura Ultra Añejo. Um, Probably the best pound for pound bottle that you can buy.
It is very nice.
I think $50 in any given total wine or time.
So it's a solid 50. That's a
So,
that's
this is a sick bottle.
if you go by pricing, that's a good bottle.
Yeah, of course. Well, especially because I think a lot of people pay a lot more money for alcohol that has more of a brand name that they don't even care like what that alcohol what the alcohol tastes like. You know, like they're just doing it to show off the names, Glenlivet or Macallan. Like I don't know anyone that I mean that's not true. I know most people I know, majority of people I know that love Scotch don't drink Macallan because they're like it doesn't taste like anything.
Yeah, so
You know.
so funny for me. I don't give a crap about any of that. I just love like I don't care about the taste or anything. I just like the after effects. Like just
You're just being drunk.
yeah,
Yeah, totally.
or even buzz, not drunk.
Do
Just
you
buzz.
think, for sure? By the way, I had a friend in college that he used to tell me he goes, my favorite place in the world to be is either buzzed or blackout. he goes,
Nothing in between.
he goes, anything in between just sucks. He's like, because then you get a hangover. If you're blackout, you end up puking probably. You probably don't remember it, and then you just wake up and you feel like a truck hit you, but you're just like, okay, you know. But he goes, if you're buzzed, you got that nice little groove going. You're hanging out with people. You're feeling social. Your walls are down. He goes, too much. You said, anything in between there is like.
But there's like unless like I haven't had too many blackout experiences.
With drinking?
No, with drinking. Like you actually wake up and you have zero clue what happened the night before. It's happened to me like 3 times in my life.
But you probably have brownouts, right? Brownouts are like where parts of the night go missing, where you're like, and someone will remind you, like, oh, hey, you said that. Yeah. You're like, oh, right. We remember we had that conversation, you know?
I'm talking about total blackout.
Yeah.
Like, you don't know, like you woke up somewhere, you don't know how you got there.
Mm-hmm. That's happened to me just a few times, not very often. But you and I are both bigger guys. And I think
not even that. Naturally, people just don't get to that level unless like you're a total alcoholic. But like,
or unless you're really partying in college. I mean, you weren't on a campus where like if you were, dude, you wouldn't be here today.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, but recently, the most recent time it happened, I wouldn't say it was a full on blackout, but it was close to it. Was when we went to Orlando, right after for that month. The first night that we were there, the first couple of nights that we were there, Rachel's family came. Her 2 younger brothers and her sister, and her twin sister, and her brother, and our brother-in-law.
That's it. I'm drinking.
No, but so we're gonna play drinking games. I was gonna buy like Coors or like light beers for it, right? And I saw that they had Trulies that were extra Trulies, and they were 8% instead of 4%.
Cool.
It's like cool. That looks like fun. So I bought a couple of like 10, 12 packs of them, whatever it was.
Oh man,
dude, everyone accidentally got so wasted.
Yeah, it's double. It's 2 cans when you have 1 can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Dude, I ended up in the wrong bed.
Yeah.
Rachel's brothers were like literally wrestling on the grass outside the Airbnb at like 1 o'clock in the morning. My brother-in-law sitting there smoking chain smoking cigarettes, watching them wrestle, and just sitting there amused. And it was just such a great time. But I woke up. Everyone woke up the next day, and I was like, "Did anyone intend for that? Did anyone mean for that to happen?" It got so wild.
Do you remember parts of the night or?
Yeah, so I remember playing drinking games.
Right.
Or starting to play drinking games, and then I just remember it did all hit me at like one time. Like, he played a couple of Flip Cup games. He played a couple of Pong games.
Okay.
By the time Flip Cup was done, I was drunk. By the time Pong was finished, I was like, I'm on another planet right now. Like it's crazy. But I don't consume alcohol to that extent really anymore.
Dude, my first experience, the only memory I have, I was a junior in high school. I was at some kid's house in Teaneck, New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
And we were watching
Teaneck was always wild.
We were in the bedroom watching the NBA Slam Dunk contest with Nate Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Great stuff. Okay. By the way, that was the peak of the All-Star break.
I was a junior in high school.
Yeah.
And the last thing I remember from the night is I had the Bacardi vodka, the 100 proof.
Yes.
I downed a whole solo cup
Oh
of it,
Jesus!
like in
Yeah.
3 gulps.
But your whole brain just shuts off, right?
It was okay. So and then I woke up the
You
next.
didn't puke?
I don't know. I woke up the next morning, um, in the afternoon. My friends were like in the living room. I walked downstairs. I had no clue where I was or anything, and then they proceeded to show me all these videos.
No way.
It was
So funny.
There was some. I was in an IHOP bathroom throwing up. There was I was on a road in Teaneck with it was like a hill.
Yeah.
I was going downhill, and I was rolling down it with my body, and cars were like driving out of the way.
Mm-hmm. It's crazy.
Like, okay.
At night?
At night.
This is the dunk contest. The All Star weekend's usually it's right before the Super Bowl. It's like early February.
I guess so.
Okay, so it's cold outside too.
Probably freezing.
You know what they say, right? Hose don't get cold, dude. Yeah.
No, that was just all these videos I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, when I was in my friend, you met my friend of Rummy, the one that got engaged while he was here.
Yeah, once that time.
Yeah, so he and my friend Ari, I don't know if you've met, but when they went to Rutgers together, and we were all really close.
I had a lot of friends who went to Rutgers. That's a crazy party school.
Yeah, Rutgers is crazy. Although I always felt like it was a little too big. Rutgers is such a huge place. Like Binghamton was
so far away from me.
Because you're on Long Island. Are you hearing that? What was that?
Yeah, a raccoon or
fuck those guys. So we did you know what a power hour is? Have you done a power hour before?
Yeah, of course.
So we did 100 minutes. We did a power centurion, and we got blackout, and you can walk to the kosher Dunkin' Donuts from there.
Okay.
And there's a kosher Dunkin' Donuts in Edison or right near Rutgers. And so we finished there's 100 shots of beer in 100 minutes. Everyone's trashed. We're dancing down the street, and I think I ate 2, but maybe 3 tuna melts from Dunkin' Donuts, dude.
Oh my god!
And yeah, I threw up the second that we got home, dude. Nothing tasted as good as that shitty Dunkin' Donuts.
Oh my god!
You know, like the mayonnaise-y,
oh my god,
slimy with fake cheese, like
so good.
Bagels that are just squished together in the panini maker, and you just open it up and it's got the wrapping, and dude, the second that I got home, I was like, this is not staying inside of me. This is terrible.
Probably felt amazing after you threw up.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. Yeah. So it happens, but I drinking's really gone. I feel like socially out. Like I feel like it's become less popular than I've ever experienced it. But now weed's really more in. Like,
yeah,
far more people are smoking regularly than drinking regularly. I think at this point.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. You think it's better?
Yes.
For the world?
Yes, 100%.
Why do you think that?
No one who smokes weed beats their wife.
Yeah.
Like that's just straight. Like it doesn't produce any sort of violence. When
you get tired, I mean, it gets lazy and less productive. But
I'm willing to bet that there was no crime committed because the person was solely on weed. I mean, he was probably on weed, but also meth and all the other stuff.
Right, or heavy drinking and smoking.
Whatever.
Yeah.
But just weed.
Just a pothead.
I would bet it's a 0% crime rate.
Well,
stealing, fine.
You think so?
Yeah, potheads. They need to get their weed and this and that. But I'm talking about like
you're talking about violent crimes. Yeah, you're talking about like abuse. Yeah,
violent crimes.
Yeah. I can't imagine getting to the point where I'd even have to pick my hand up.
I know.
I don't do anything with it, you know? Yeah. I think it's good. I think that I think we're overall it's interesting. I think that one of the ways we're living in a really good world and like living a good life is that a lot of the public interest is about recreational things, right? Like things like it used to be concerns like, do I have a job or not? Now it's like, are you going to drink? Or are you going to smoke? You know, like what's more
I guess
productive?
so, yeah.
What's better for the world? Are you, like now it's like, oh, are you on the healthy food train where you're not eating, these kind of oils or that, and like as opposed to like how you pay your mortgage next month? Like I feel like a lot of the conversation. And by the way, I'm sure that a lot of the conversations are happening too. But I think that
No,
we live in a time where that I feel it's more relevant.
It's less exposed. Like people keep it to
Like
themselves.
we're worried about things like, and by the way, we should, but like mental health issues, like. People didn't talk about mental health problems when you're a milkman in Eastern Europe, and you're schlepping your cart
They would
through
laugh in your
town.
face.
Yeah, you don't talk about depression. I mean, when you say you're depressed, you go. By the way, I'm curious because I'm not sure. Do you think work prevents depression?
Work?
Yeah, like working, like
Yes.
physically working with your body. You think that
100%.
So you think that people were less depressed when we had
It's
more
endorphins.
job, like more like physical based jobs, right? Like jobs that required you using your body.
Well, it has to be a mix. But I'm saying if someone's just going to sit on their couch all day, obviously they're going to be.
Well, no, of course, but
That's
let's
what
say
I'm saying.
these guys that work remote that are like marketing advisors for Google, and they're
Oh,
making
yeah,
$200,000,
they're
and they work
constant.
4 hours a day, and they're at home 4 days a week, right? Like these are the people that like take that guy or take a guy that does HVAC for a living, that's bouncing around from house to house, right? Who's more inclined? Like, by the way, and the Google guy's probably making more money,
Of course, he's making more money, but
but
again,
the HVAC guy is probably less
happier.
inclined, yeah, to or more satisfied. I don't know. One of the things I was thinking was that I feel like depression or happiness, both of them. I feel like people the way that people experience them is whether or not they feel like their life is in their hands.
Right.
And like if the decisions they make are their own choices or someone else is making it for them. I think that's ultimately what the biggest thing is with a lot of people. Like, like a job where you feel like, "Oh, I have to get in, I have to shut myself there," as opposed to like, I want to work because I love my house, I love my family, I want to keep that up. Like I love this, I love what I'm doing. And so like you're choosing to go to work, and like you're choosing to be busy, you're choosing to like feel valuable, right? That like when your life is in your hands, you feel like everything is everything is up to you almost. Like you may not have everything in the world, but at least your choices are your own choices.
Yeah, I heard someone say you're in control of what controls you.
Yes, correct. You're in control of what controls you.
Yeah.
Right. So it's actually funny you say that. That I feel like one another beer. Oh, yeah, wait there for you.
Sure.
Tilt the cup a little bit. Nice. That's what I think one of the pitfalls of therapy is. I think one of the pitfalls of therapy is when we use our therapy as an opportunity to excuse ourselves from our lives due to our experiences, as opposed to using it as a tool to try to understand and then maneuver your way through. Right? Like therapy goes bad. Let's say I gave this example actually to my students. I was talking to them. When I was in third grade, there was a girl I had a crush on. I transferred into the school, right? And I was really awkward. I was really uncomfortable. I hated.
Third grade, you had a crush. Okay.
Yeah, I don't even know how that happens, right? I mean, how old am I? I'm 7, 8.
It's total.
Yeah, it's natural.
Of course, it's your libido. Like.
Yeah, I guess so. And I had this crush on this girl, and and I was hoping that she would like notice me or start talking to me because she's already been to school and I'm new. And I actually like a week earlier I got glasses for the first time, and like I was hoping everyone would notice. No one noticed, and then I'm sitting in class. I remember it so vividly, dude. I remember because she was sitting in front of me, and she never turned around like to talk to me, and I was always hoping that she'd like just turn around and just like see what's up, and when like you got to fart and you're not sure if it's going to be a loud fart or a quiet fart, and you try to go for it, you just like try to like slip it out.
Of course.
I ripped one, right?
It was really loud.
So loud, the whole class stopped.
Yes.
The girl turns around, she looks at me, and she goes, "Is that you?" Now, I'm like, I feel like I'm gonna drop dead. I'm so embarrassed. I'm like, no, like I'm the only person back there. There's no one on either side of me. Like it's just me, like this empty row. And
you should have said you moved your desk or whatever.
Dude, and obviously it's funny because it sticks with me, but like it's not like dictating my life, right? But but there are people that literally like would develop a case of like anxiety, like social anxiety because of that, right? Like it really is like a strong, like it's a very,
100%. Dude, I had the same thing in third grade. I shit my pants in the classroom.
I'm lucky. I'm lucky. I only farted, dude.
Right in the classroom, dude. I sneezed, and everything just came out the other end.
No way.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
You're in third grade?
Third grade, and then they called for recess, and everyone left the room, and I was still just sitting there in my shit.
Oh man, can you imagine being a teacher? Can you imagine? Imagine you're probably like a 28-year-old teacher. You're out of college a couple of years.
What's wrong? And I told him exactly what happened.
What'd you say?
He's like, go to the bathroom. So I went, and like I literally just like, you know, the underwear I threw right in the garbage, and I just went commando the rest of the day.
That's smart.
Yeah.
Wow, I never would have thought of that. As a third
You would
grader,
have slid your nasty, shitty underwear back on.
I don't know what I would have done, dude.
That's what I did. I went commando the rest of the day.
I would have just like cried until I went home.
No, I just dealt with it.
We don't cry, not in our family. Yeah. So but the point of the story was like people like now you're in therapy, right? Let's say I'm sitting with my therapist, and I have social anxiety, and I'm telling her these embarrassing stories that have happened to me in public, including that one. And I'm like, and that's why I have social anxiety. And she's like, yeah, that makes sense.
Right.
So like, if the therapist is not a good therapist, the conversation ends there, and then the next time I want to go out, I have an excuse for myself. I know because I was in therapy that I can't be social because I can't be out because I have this trauma from when I was younger.
Yeah, but the problem there is the word conversation. You're not supposed to have a conversation with your therapist. They're not your friends. You got to treat them like a tool in your toolbox. You got to use them.
Yeah, especially because you're paying them, dude.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you can't just be buddy. But I've had therapists and I buddy with them, and it got me nowhere.
Really, you feel that way?
No, you can't. You can't become friends with these people. They're not your friends. Like, you're paying them exorbitant amounts of money.
Yeah.
But it's not even the money thing. It's you have to use them. So you have to be talking 95% of the session.
When did you start going to therapy?
My first therapist I went to in 7th grade.
Really?
Yeah.
And you feel like you needed that, or your parents told you needed it? Or both?
I was like extremely depressed because I was in an all-boys school and I was dying to go to a co-ed school.
I had that experience too, dude.
And I was literally in my bed crying every night.
I hated school.
Yeah.
I hated school.
So that was just one thing. Yeah. And
so you were in bed and your parents just didn't know what to do.
I was begging them, but my dad did not want it.
Yeah.
He's like, it's going to be so bad. Like, you know.
It's so interesting. Like, what are you going to do if, your kids are in 8th grade and they're dying for something that, like, you feel like is really not in their best interest?
Honestly, I really believe that everyone comes out the way they're supposed to come out in life. And, like, no matter what happens, what school they go to in 3rd grade is not going to change how they're going to be when they're 30 years old.
You hope not. By the way, you hope not.
I know, but I'm saying overall, everyone is born, everyone goes through life, everyone grows up.
Yeah.
They all go through shit, they all go through problems, and that's just how life is. That's it.
Right.
So, like, even if let's say I let Nathan decide what school, and let's say I don't, and let's say it's good or bad either way, like, you don't know. It's just
you don't know, but the question becomes, how do you judge your kids? At what point do you trust your kids' judgment for what's good for themselves as opposed to your judgment what's good for your kid?
Not till he's like 14, 15.
Yeah? Yeah.
Maybe 13 if he's really, like, mature.
Yeah.
But, like...
So what was it like? So you went, you're in 7th grade. What was that like?
Yeah, no, and he like would make me crack up. We were best friends. Like, there's nothing.
Oh, really? You liked him?
Yeah.
Did it help?
No.
It didn't help?
No. It was just fun. But, like...
Really?
Yeah, and then I stopped going, and then I went back to a therapist when I was a senior in high school, but that was mandated by my school.
Gotcha. All right. Well, listen,
So,
it worked
like-
out. Yeah. How'd that go? By the way, when it's mandated, what's your opinion on therapy that's mandated or rehab that's mandated?
Such bullshit. I
It's
mean,
bullshit.
I remember consciously trying to make the best out of it, even though it was mandated. But I don't know. I'm a senior in high school. How much do I give a shit
Yeah.
about therapy at that point?
So I had so I was listening to a podcast. It was Tucker Carlson talking with this guy Michael Schellenberger, who's an amazing independent journalist.
Yeah.
Incredible guy. So I don't know what he's like as a human being, but incredibly intelligent and articulate guy, right? Like he knows a lot, and he does his homework, and he's a great journalist. He's a great reporter. He's a great, you know, just journalist, right? And they were talking about the fires in L.A. and they were talking about, and Michael Schellenberger was talking about the homeless problem. He goes, apparently 50%, according to what he said, 50% of the fires that are started in LA, that are put out, that are called for the fire department, are started by homeless people. It might not even be inadvertently, it might not be intentional, but like, let's say you're in California, right? And you're on the beach and you set a fire and you start a fire to make some food. And it gets out of hand. All of a sudden, there's a fire. You're like, "Oh crap!" You know, like what am I gonna do? Or you light some fire to cook some meth or whatever it is. You know, what I mean, because you said it was specifically associated with meth heads. But he was like, he goes, in a world, he goes, imagine a world. I don't know if this is, I don't know how this would work, but he was like, imagine a world. You can put it in whatever. It's all wet. Imagine a world where you're on drugs, right? And your parents say to you, imagine that, right? And your parents say to you, listen, your behavior is starting to impact us directly. You know, we can't have you here anymore. Like, I'm sorry, we love you, we care for you, we want you around, but like, as long as you're doing this, we can't have you around, right?
Right.
And so this guy goes, crashes on a park bench, right? A cop comes up to him and says, listen, pal, you have two choices right now. He goes, you go back, few choices. You go back to your parents, you go to prison, you go to rehab, right?
Okay.
Pick one. We're not going to give you money to be homeless.
Right.
We're not going to give you food stamps. What we're going to do is
Help.
We're going to place you in a place in one of these three places. Either your home and you figure it out with your parents, into rehab and you figure it out with yourself and counselors, or prison and you figure it out the hard way, right?
I love it.
And he's like, can you imagine if all the money that we spent towards homeless aid went towards the root of homeless aid, right? He goes, how much better do you think our society would be? I don't really, and it's a really curious, and the interesting thing is that with large, like sweeping statements like that, I generally have a hard time with because I feel like most cases are more nuanced than large sweeping cases, right?
Large sweeping statement, yeah.
You know, but I think that overall, it sounds like a much more reasonable method that's more helpful to everyone all around. And at a certain point, the other interesting thing is we know that humans are really good at adapting to their environment, and we prefer to be comfortable, right? And we know that people prefer to be comfortable even if it's less good for them than be uncomfortable and do something that's better for them, right? Like how many friends have you had in shitty relationships and they're like, oh, but it's comfortable. Oh, but I know them so well. Oh, but and like, comfort, like fuck comfortable, dude. You guys are throwing glasses on the floor in the kitchen every other day, dude. You guys are fighting like crazy. You hate each other. It's like, yeah, but I know her. Like, like I know she works. I know this. I know her crazy. It's my crazy, And I'm like,
yeah, it's.
So I think that, and I know actually from experience from Rachel, she knows people that have been, homeless because of whatever issues, and they've had opportunities to get out of it, and they've chosen to stick with it.
Right.
They said, like, this is my life. Like, I have my system, I have my friends, I have my community. Like, I don't want an apartment. I don't want a home. I don't want to be responsible to pay bills and a mortgage and whatever it is.
You get very used to
and by the way, this is absolutely not I'm not trying to discredit.
You're advocating for homelessness.
I'm not trying to discredit, people that really that really need help. But I'm saying that that from my understanding is from firsthand experience that there are people that really, once they're comfortable, they just prefer to be left alone that way. And the problem is that you're also hurting everyone around you by doing that. Like liberty and freedom comes, especially in America, is only as far as until you have all the freedom you want until it starts affecting other people, and then you have to start being considerate.
Yeah.
Right, which makes sense, right? I could do whatever I want within the confines of my house. If I start beating my wife,
Fire
and all of a sudden, what?
Fire in a movie theater.
Fire in a movie theater. Same story, you know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's crazy. When actually last week, here's a crazy story. Last week I was driving. I was going down 7 towards the Hard Rock. I was heading north, and on 7, um, there's usually a lot of homeless, people holding up signs asking for help. I don't know if they're necessarily homeless, but people like asking for help, and so I was driving up, and I had the windows down, I was smoking, I was hanging out, and I see that there's a homeless woman, or at least a woman asking for help, by the light, right? I didn't want to be one of those douchebags that like roll up their windows the second I see a homeless person, right?
That in a second.
I know, but this woman like looked relatively harmless. I use my judgment, meaning if a guy looks like he's legitimately crazy and he's gonna harass me, like I'm gonna leave him. I'm gonna roll up my windows and like mind my own business.
Right.
But like I've found that a lot of people in Florida, like in New York, I was just there the other day. I was driving back from LaGuardia, and like there's like legitimately like homeless people like walking in the middle of the Henry Hudson Highway, and I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Like,
well, they're just gonna die soon. That's it.
I know, but like, don't make me responsible for that, dude. Like, I don't want to be the one that hit you. I give a shit, right? So I roll out. So I don't want to roll this window up because I don't want to be. This woman looks like, right? She doesn't. I'm not gonna dehumanize her like that. And once my window's down, I'm like, she's right there, So I look at her and I'm like, and I smile and I say, I'm so sorry. I was like, I wish I had some cash on me. I don't have anything. I'm so sorry. I would love to. I would love to help a little bit. And she goes, it's fine, no problem, don't worry about it. And she smiles and she keeps on walking like up to like just like passing by, she's holding her sign, anything helps, God bless, right? And then she comes back like a minute later, because she walked back and then back to me, and she was like, by the way, I just want you to know, like, just a smile and like saying like I'm sorry and like good luck, like means so much. Like you can't, like she's like you can't. Yeah, I'm telling you, it means so much that you do that. And I was like,
it's probably the first time in
that she had another interaction.
Yeah.
But like to me,
it's just so interesting the fact that she mentioned that.
I started doing that, by the way, with as many people like around as possible. If I'm walking, like if I'm jogging in the street and like I'm passing someone on a walk, I'll usually say, "Hey, how's it going?" I'll usually just like give like a "What's up" or a peace sign.
No, I'll say hey.
Yeah. But I think,
start a conversation.
but doesn't it feel better? Like, doesn't it feel good to like have that like positive interaction? You feel like, oh man, like I have
there's growing up, every Sukkot, my family and like a bunch of other families would go up to this town in New Hampshire.
Nice.
It's way up New Hampshire. It's called Bethlehem, New Hampshire.
Cool.
Okay. Everyone living in that town, it's probably a population of, I want to say, 5,000 people.
Yeah.
Like tiny. And it's like a little like Main Street road. You know how it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. I love those kind of towns, by the way. I love
those. Where was I going with this?
Because we were talking about the homeless people and just saying hi to people in the street, stuff like that.
So everyone living in this town, they will literally cross the street to say hello to you.
Yeah.
And you're just a total stranger.
Yeah.
And like it always blew my mind every time. We would just be walking down the street. Oh, you're a new face. Tell me about yourself. Everything. And we're just like, where am I? 'Cause we're coming from New York City.
Yeah, you're coming from Long Island, dude.
Oh my God, but we always look forward, And
because it's fun. It's a beautiful thing.
God. It's really like.
By the way, I think a lot of the countries like that.
Yes, it is.
It is because most of the countries are rural, and most of the countries are
Midwest. That's everything. That's Midwest.
Dude, I just did a podcast with the guy that owns my favorite brewery around here, Orchestrated Minds. Close, but now I'm gonna get in trouble, dude. I'm just kidding. And I love Three Sons too, and Uncommon Pass. I'm doing a podcast.
Sorry for the 2.7 million listeners.
Yeah, sure.
Soon.
And I'm talking. And his name is Davey, right? And he comes from. He grew up on a tobacco farm in Virginia.
Love it.
Right, and he was like, "We just got high-speed internet in my town. It's 2025, dude." And he's like, he goes, "You don't realize." He goes, "You're from New York, and then you moved down to Florida." He's like, you don't realize how much of the country is living like that.
But why is that?
You know what I think? I think because the people that make the most noise are the people in the position to make the most noise, which are on the top, and they take everyone else for granted. I know, but not even city council. Let's say influencers, right? News reporters, news stations. You think they're going to flock to the Wisconsin Dells, or you think they're going to come to Manhattan?
I see.
And so there's a massive misrepresentation about what most of the country is like, because most of the news that it's like on Twitter, right? Your Twitter algorithm, or your Instagram algorithm shows you what it is you engage with, and you feel like the entire world is that. You feel like everything, because that's all you're seeing all day. All you're seeing is notification. Do you see in Wisconsin and that this happened there, and it happened in California, and it happened in New York, and like, but majority of the country is not experiencing that shit.
Right.
100%.
Like this town in Bethlehem.
Yeah, dude, like this town in Bethlehem. But I also think, but it's also interesting because if people, we did come from like these small tribes, and it could be that really what's healthiest for human beings is to be in like smaller communities, and like people just live happier, healthier lives. Right. And I think it comes down to I've been thinking a lot about this, because I thought about this for a long time. It started when I was going to move to Seattle. What?
Just want to stand a little bit, like that.
Sure. When I was going to move to Seattle, a lot of people were giving me a hard time. My grandparents were giving me a hard time. My friends were giving me a hard time. My parents were really good about it. They were like, listen, you got to do what you got to do in your life, and whatever's important to you, whatever makes you happy, which is awesome. Yeah. But, I was talking to a friend of mine. He's like, how are you going to find a kosher restaurant? I'm like, I don't need a kosher restaurant. And he goes, how are you going to find, where are you going to send your kids to school? I'm like, I don't have kids yet. I'm single. I'm 24 years old, right? And he's like, why you moved to Seattle? It's like, he goes, it's so not convenient. There's no...
You had a vegan place. What's that called?
In Seattle?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. It closed.
I know, but...
It was a pizza shop, I think.
That's where everyone went.
Yeah, it was a pizza shop. Shit.
Whatever. I don't know what I'm saying,
Island... Eden Island, Eden Crust, Eden something like that. But either way, right? I'm like... And I was really thinking about it. I'm like, what am I sacrificing?
How long did you live in Seattle for?
Just a year.
Okay, yeah.
But then I was going to move to Florida, right? My friends were like, well, what are you doing? What are you going to do in Florida? Well, Florida has a little bit more opportunity for Orthodox Jew, right? But I was thinking to myself, I'm like, what am I sacrificing by giving up comforts versus what am I gaining? Like, what's the opportunity to gain, right? And when you grow up and when you spend time in a small town, like our community, right, where like you drive by and you know your neighbors, and like your entire life is your community, and you go to the supermarket, and who cares? And I mean, how often do you go to restaurants, dude? Do you think you need the 30 restaurants that are in South Florida?
No.
You don't need it. You need a supermarket that has meat, maybe a pizza shop if it's convenient, and that's it.
Supermarket.
And that's and then a minion, and a place to pray, a place to daven, and then maybe and a school for your kids. And let's say you're at a different religious level than where the school is, right? You make it work, because that's what you do in a small town with 30 people. You make it work, and then you know what?
That's how I feel in shul.
Totally, dude.
I make it work. I love these guys, but I'm on a totally different religious level than them.
Yeah, but you know what? I think that but I think that your religious level that you're on is only like a fragment of what you can relate to other people, right?
Right, correct.
Like, you're friends with other people. You talk about religion, but you talk about having kids. You talk about dealing with you talk about your relationship with your wife. You talk about work. You talk about what your ambitions and your dreams are.
I talk to Christians about that.
Yeah, exactly. Meaning, it's like, there's so much more that brings us that we have in common.
For sure.
Than we have that keeps us apart.
Yeah,
that like
sure, that's more focused.
Yeah, so like if you hypothetically want to be in the most insulated bubble you could be, but then you're sacrificing something for convenience. What are you sacrificing, right? For me, I feel like when you're in these big cities, I feel like you, especially in, like, let's just say hypothetically a Jewish community, but this feels like that way about any community at all, right? Let's say with a minyan, right? You need 10 Jews to daven together, to pray together, and you have. And you have only 15 people that live in the neighborhood. Everyone feels like they've got to show up because they're not sure if anyone else is going to show up. And so everyone feels a responsibility to bring what they have to the table. But if you have 500 people, You're like,
Yeah.
if I don't do it, someone else is going to, and it's no big deal. No one's gonna care, right? If you feel that way, then no one takes responsibility. The community is by almost like I feel like by definition like a dying community. When people don't bring what they have to the table, you're like, what are you even doing? And I'm not saying this. I'm not trying to say this despairingly because I think that there is value in comfort, especially because a lot of times people, for example, right, like if you care about your religious level of your family, right, you're like, you know what, I'm working 14 hours a day or 10 hours a day or 12 hours a day. And I'm trying to be a good husband. I'm trying to do, run errands. I'm trying to help around the house. I don't even have time to raise my family. So I want my family to be in an environment.
I don't even have time to do a full davening.
In general.
Like, I'll wake up before kids, I'll put on tefillin, I'll do,
yeah.
Basically Shema Esrei.
Yeah.
Berachos Kriya Shema, whatever.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
And I have to, do other stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's crazy.
So I can understand why you would say, if I want my family to be religious, I need to be in a place that they can have that without me.
Yeah.
Right? Without me in the picture. So I understand where they're coming from. I understand where other people are coming from when they say that there's certain things that are convenient, that are worthwhile. But I don't. But to me, if you can live in Florida and make $100,000 less than what it requires to live in Connecticut or Jersey or New York, or $150,000 less of what it takes, or whatever it is, and you could still be that, like, you could still work, you could still be a present father, you could be a present husband, and you could participate. And like people here, it's funny because, so I had a guy from New York come, a locksmith, changed the lock when I moved in, and I was like, "What do you think of Florida? How do you like it compared to New York?" He's like, it's weird. He goes, I don't like it because in New York you get like swallowed up by the hustle. He goes, in here I have too much extra time. And I'm like, and I was thinking to myself, I actually told it to him too. I was like, you need to have a real sense of self and like a purpose to live in a place where you have free time.
Yeah.
And like when you live in a place where you're constantly swept up, it doesn't give you the space to like you don't have to think about like what are my passions, because you're always on the rush, you're always hustling, you're always in survival mode, right? You don't have time to build your own thing. So, but when you're in a place where things are slower, like I've noticed a lot more of my friends down here have hobbies and passions and they have time to do things that they love.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Right?
I wish I had time.
You don't think you have time though?
I want to build just a bench.
Dude, you could definitely. But why don't you? You could just get the piece of wood. No, not even that.
I want to build
half an hour a weeknight.
You know the walkway to my door? I want to build a gorgeous bench against that wall.
So why can't you buy the pieces from Home Depot and just do it slowly?
I'm gonna do it.
I'll help you, dude. By help you, I mean I'm gonna drink beer and sit next to you while you do it, because I'll just join you for company. But so I feel like what we have to gain from a little bit of hardship is a lot more than what we have to gain from more convenience and more comfort. Right. I feel like if anyone ever says, "Oh, I'm doing something because it's comfortable," it's usually not a good thing. Right. Like, when have you ever heard that in a positive sense? When have you ever heard like, "Oh yeah, you know what? You're killing it in life and you're totally comfortable." Yeah, maybe after you've made your million. By the way, and you hear that from people after they've hustled and killed themselves and worked really hard. And then they're sitting pretty, and good for them, they deserve it, But now what? Like, now what do you got? And a lot of times these people go crazy. I don't know what to do with themselves, right? Because you never had time to develop that sense of self, that sense of individuality, and what am I going to do with myself as a 35-year-old or a 45-year-old or a 55-year-old adult that has a family? Now I have time. What am I going to do? I feel like I have to work because otherwise I'm a loser. But like I'm comfortable. I'm okay. Like, what do I do now? But I feel like living in Florida, living out of town, living in like one of these more low key places, it might be less convenient, but I think that it's just a healthier pace of life. I think it's a healthier lifestyle. I don't know. I think a lot about it.
It's definitely healthier, but you can get healthier. Like we're still extremely busy.
Listen, dude. I mean, first of all, you got 3 kids under 5. So you're extremely busy. By the way, you're going to be extremely. Let's say hypothetically, you're going to be extremely busy for the next 5. No, probably 5 years. Because 5 years, your kids will pretty much be doing their own thing, and like they won't need you every 5 minutes.
My youngest will be 5, right?
Right, and then your oldest will be 10, running, going to his friend's house, play dates, whatever it is, and it's going to be more about like just picking you up or not. Like, oh, am I going to get him? Am I not going to get him? Were you thinking about that already?
So I got.
But you're gonna find that you're gonna be a lot more laid back a lot earlier in life. Like right now, your life is crazy, but you're gonna be a lot more laid back a lot earlier in your life than most people living in the tri-state area or big cities like Chicago or LA or wherever are. By the way, we're in essentially a big city too. Like Hollywood is pretty big as far as development.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, I have to piss. Let's take a pause for a second. Anyway, so we're back. So so yeah, that was my thoughts on that. But dude, we're living in a godsend time, dude.
Yeah, godsends.
Donald Trump.
Godsends, dude.
Do you know what I'm curious about? I'm curious about what the world's gonna think of Trump, or what the world's gonna think of the last 10 years with Trump, right, or 12 years, right? When he started to run in 2015 till today, or until the end of his campaign, or until the end of his presidency, rather, that was 15-year period.
Right, but again, he's.
And what do you think history is going to say about this time period? Do you think history is going to be
person of the year?
I know, but I understand. But what do you think?
Was...
What do you think the world's like? Do you think that history is going to be like we were crazy for hating Trump? Do you think that we were brilliant for hating Trump? Do you think that? What do you think is going to happen?
I wanna quote someone who said it so brilliantly that people are for both sides.
What does that mean?
Yeah, it'll say. Look, it was like
Because, by the way, people on either end of the spectrum were voting for Trump at this point, like left and right. I wasn't going to vote for him until he kind of created that unity party. But I wasn't really interested in like Trump as Trump.
Yeah, but there's someone on social media. He's like, there's always a contradiction. Like all these political, like the hostages are fed well, and there's no food in Gaza. Which one is it?
Are the hostages fed well?
No, they're saying the.
I'm asking. Do we think? Are we being told that the hostages are being fed well?
No, but that's what the people against Israel are saying.
They're saying the hostages are being fed well,
but they're also saying there's no food in Gaza. So
Right.
which one is it?
There's
Okay,
probably
wait. So there's different things. So there's that. Then the Holocaust never happened, and Hitler was right. Which one was it? Okay.
Yeah.
Globalize the Intifada and ceasefire now. Which one is it?
Right.
Is like all these things, and it's just I think it's the world has come to a 100% emotionally based decision making world.
Place.
There's no rationale. There's no thinking straight. It's whatever you feel.
By the way, I don't know that that's true. I think that the people that are making a lot of noise do that, but I think that because most of the country voted against this, I think most of the country does not feel that way.
Correct. Sorry.
It's all right, douchebag.
You gotta take this. Hello?
So, yeah, so I think that it's funny. Okay. A tiny minority of people make choices and decisions for an enormous majority of people that don't bother speaking up or expressing themselves.
100%.
And the only times that they do...
Which is why Trump is elected president.
Right. 100%. I think that's what it is.
Yes.
I really think that's what it is.
The silent majority rules.
But it's Yeah, but it's a shame because the silent majority...
They just want to grow their crops and raise their kids.
Yeah, but if you really wanted to and you saw that was becoming difficult to do, wouldn't you think that they would get a little louder? Unless they just don't think like, I don't have time to build a social media presence where I'm getting all these thousands of views and everything.
They're not going to get louder. They know what they're going to do once they hit that poll, once they hit that booth.
I know, but you can't have people speak up once every 4 years.
There was a study. Do you know how many people root and like parade for one guy, but once they get in the booth, they root for the other. They vote for the other one.
I heard.
There's a big study like that.
Yeah, where people will
'Cause they
publicly
look-
say one thing, and then when
and
it
then
comes down to
when they get to actually voting in private, they're like, "Oh, what's best for me?" And then they vote.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, it's weird. It's weird. It's weird. I'm very excited. You know what I'm very excited for? I'm very excited because I feel like the silent majority was such a majority this past election
Yes.
that it actually demanded and gave power to people. For example, right? Tucker Carlson has one of the most popular podcasts in the world right now.
Yeah.
In the world.
Yeah.
Most people in elite positions will discredit him as a crazy person.
Right.
Right?
It really should.
But then why does he have the best guest? By the way, I don't necessarily agree at all with everything he says and does, right? I don't. But you can't deny that his guests are like he gets the best of the best guests. He has a huge presence. He represents the voice. He seems to a lot of the time represent the voices of people that are he does. It's funny because he most like a lot of his interviews are just asking questions about narratives and being like, do we know that's the case? And then like most people be like, yeah, do we? And like that's all you got to do. So it's funny because I was talking to a friend of mine. I was like, yeah, please. Journalism is do you think so? People might think that journalism is like exposing the truth. I think journalism is exposing new perspectives, new narratives, and when people hear them, it helps them do their own homework and research and come to their own conclusions. And if there's only one standard and if there's only one perspective,
that's ideal. Yeah.
right. So, and by the way, journalists, by showing a lot of perspectives, will often come to the truth because the truth is often somewhere off the beaten path, right? Like there's a popular mainstream opinion, and like somewhere like deviated right off of there is like really where the real situation is, right? And journalists will go here and there and there and there, and they're all over. But one of the places that might hit is over here too.
Right.
And so, journalists will get things wrong a lot, but it's not about getting things right or wrong. It's about just bringing up the point. Here's food for thought. Here's an experiment. What do you think about this? What's your take on this? Does this bother you? Does this mean anything to you? Have you ever considered looking at things from this angle or that angle?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but me and you both know that media is just doing what the people want to hear.
No, it's not true. The opposite. That's why giant media has died. That's why no one watches Fox or CNN or MSNBC.
I'm talking about the media a couple of years ago. Like
yeah, well, that's what. But no, but
it's dying, which is good. Yeah.
Yeah, because they kept on not. By the way, it happens till today. Why is Joe Biden and like a legitimate question? Like, if you want to maintain your reputation, you have to be honest. You have to just say like, even if everyone knows you're lying, it doesn't make it better, right? He goes, this Biden goes, this ceasefire in Gaza and Israel would not have happened without me, right? And I did this. That's what Biden said.
He wants a legacy, yeah.
But he's tarnishing his own legacy by making it up when it's so blatantly not true. That's not even his best interest anymore. That's what media has been for the last 2 years.
You think in 50 years from now,
or 10 years, really.
history books are going to say it wasn't true, or they're just going to say what he accomplished?
We're going to say that no. History books are going to say. I think they're going to say that there was a time where people were able to control media narratives, and then at one point the population overtook the media.
Right.
Just like, by the way, how we look at the 70s, like counterculture, right? It was disgusting. Like those places where all like these Bob Dylans and Springsteens and Van Morrison used to hang out. There was just shithole, like those shithole, disgusting places with drunks and homeless people there, and these really talented people. But like 50 years later, you're looking at it all romantic because they're the ones that are left to tell the story, right? And we're going to be the ones left to say, hey, this is what happens when you build power and you get so obsessed with your own power that you don't listen to the voice of the regular person and you try to tell them what. One of the things that bothers one of my biggest pet peeves is when someone tells someone else how they're supposed to feel, right? Like my dad will do this with business sometimes. He'll be like, "Oh, they don't mind that." I'm like, did you ask them if they mind that? He's like, "No." Like, don't decide that for them. You know, like it's not your call. Let them decide. You know, but so that's what the media's been doing. Like the people think Trump is racist. Like, they're like, who thinks that? You know, like
Right. No.
they're like, okay, and so all of a sudden you lose credibility. All of a sudden, and then an entire country of millions of people will just be like, no, man. Like, how many people are in America? 1 billion?
350 million.
We don't have 1 billion in America?
No.
Not even close?
Not even close.
So where's the billion? China and India?
China, India. I
don't think Russia has.
Japan maybe.
Ooh.
But
Asia in general, I think, has.
Asia's a continent.
Asia has like I think a half or a third of like the entire population of the world.
Yeah, but China has like a lot.
Yeah. Okay, dude. You have to call. You have to run.
I gotta run.
Okay. Let's call it here. Thanks for doing this, dude.
Yeah.
It's always a pleasure. You want a tequila shot before you go?
Sure.
Let's do it, dude. Let's do it on air. Make sure you don't pussy out.
Not
Excuse
so
my
much.
French.
Not so much.
That sounds exactly like pussy out.
A little more.
There you go. Grow some hair on there. Hang on. Time, dude.
All right.
Thanks for doing this, man. Cheers. Bye, everyone. Good night.